Tonight on Larry King Live, the shocking details of Larry King's handwritten will and the consequences of not having a lawyer prepare your will for you. Was this will valid? Who were Larry King's intended heirs? Who did the will intend to disinherit? And why did this handwritten will fail to protect Larry King's heirs and fail to distribute his assets according to his last wishes? With all of the shocking details and legal analysis, I'm your host, Zachary Worrell. Our segment today is the first installment of a new series. I don't think I need a lawyer to do this for me. What could go wrong? Larry King, rest in peace, had a storied 63-year-long career in journalism, from radio to television to his famous show Larry King Live, and in the process earned hundreds of millions of dollars. But being a famous journalist and having a bunch of money doesn't qualify you to write your own will. This sad story starts in 2019. At the time, Larry King was married to his seventh wife. No red flags there. And she was named in his will as the executor of his estate and was set to inherit a significant portion of Larry King's assets upon his death. As a reminder, an heir inherits, and an executor administers or executes the will. However, as 2019 came to a close, Larry King decided to divorce his seventh wife and filed paperwork to do so. History doesn't repeat, but it sure does rhyme. Shortly thereafter, he wrote his own will entirely in his own hand. This again is called a holographic will. The will read, "This is my last will and testament. It should replace all previous writings. In the event of my death, any day after the above date, I want 100% of my funds to be divided equally amongst my children, Andy, Chaya, Larry Jr., Chance, and Cannon. Signed, Larry King." This will is simple enough, right? Just divide my assets equally amongst my 5 children. Easy enough for anybody to write on their own, right? Wrong. By writing his own will and not having an attorney help him in the process, Larry King ensured that his last wishes would in fact not be realized. Problem 1. Larry King specifically named his 5 children and stated that they should inherit 100% of his assets, and had no terms in there to determine what should happen if they predecease him. Unfortunately for Larry King, in 2020, shortly after the will was written, 2 of his children died before he did. The will is not clear about what should happen in this instance. Should the children of his predeceased children inherit their parents' share of the estate? Do the surviving children split 100% of his funds upon his death? A good wills attorney would have thought through all of these contingencies and made specific plans for it in the will. However, Larry King wrote it by himself and didn't think it through all the way. Problem 2. Larry specifically left 100% of his funds to his children. But an estate is more than just the assets somebody has when they die. The debts must also be excluded. This drafting error set up a series of questions that needed to be answered, specifically relating to Larry King Jr.'s extensive borrowing against his inheritance. Are his other kids on the hook for a disproportionate share of the debt? Again, Larry King's wishes seemed simple enough, but by writing his own will, he set his heirs up for a protracted and expensive legal battle that ultimately cost them all a bunch of money. A third issue. Larry King's will failed to name an executor for the estate. As mentioned previously, Larry Jr. borrowed a bunch of money against his inheritance prior to Larry King's death, and Jr. applied to be the executor of the estate since one was named in the will. This created a huge conflict of interest between Larry Jr. and his siblings. Had an attorney written his will, these problems could have been avoided. Finally, by writing a holographic will by himself, Larry King made it significantly easier for his then spouse, who he was trying to divorce, to contest the validity and contents of the will. His wife claimed that Larry had written the will after he had suffered a stroke and therefore lacked the testamentary capacity necessary to make this will valid. A good wills attorney would have drafted the will such that it would be significantly harder for his then spouse to contest the validity of the will via his testamentary intent. The lawyer would have drafted the will to explicitly state that he has the testamentary capacity necessary and would have had multiple witnesses affirm the same. As expected, upon his death, Larry King's poorly drafted will set up a protracted and expensive legal battle between his then spouse and his children. Though the details are not public, Larry's children and his ex-wife settled the dispute, and by implication, his wife actually did take part of his estate, and his children didn't take 100% of his estate, as he wished. Moreover, the expensive legal wranglings reduced the overall value of the estate. And while it's entirely legal in most jurisdictions to write your own will by hand, as Larry King did, and just because you think it's simple enough that you can write it on your own, doesn't mean that it's a good idea. And therefore, I strongly encourage all of you to speak to an attorney about your last will and testament, whether you've got one written now or you need to have one written for you. And that's why I'm offering everybody in my audience a free 30-minute consultation regarding their last will and testament. To take advantage of this offer, sign up using promo code LarryKingsGhost.
Greetings, it's Larry King, speaking to you from the other side. Do not be a dummy like me and let your ex-wife take a bunch of your money because you wanted to write your own will. Learn from my stupid mistake and hire Zachary Worrell or another attorney to write your will for you.
So don't be like Larry. Don't try to do it on your own. Don't try to save money. Sign up for your free consultation with me or another attorney to make sure that your last will and testament actually enacts your last will. As always, if you like this content, please be sure to like, subscribe, and click that little notification bell so you never miss an important update. I'm your host, Zachary Worrell. Thanks for watching.